Smith Show starts right now.
Welcome to the latest edition of the Stephen A. Smith Show, coming at you as I love to do every weekday over the airwaves of ESPN Radio and ESPN News. 250 plus markets across the United States of America. Check the AM, FM listing nearest you, plus ESPN Radio on Sirius XM Channel 80, plus ESPN Radio simulcast over the live national television airwaves of ESPN News. Number to call up as always is 888-SAY-ESPN. That's 888-729-3776. The Stephen A. Smith Show is being brought to you by Credit Karma. Get your truly free credit scores and free credit monitoring from Credit Karma today. That's Credit Karma, K-A-R-M-A. Get knowing. Time for Straight Talk, brought to you by Straight Talk Wireless. Best phones, best networks, no contracts. Got a jam-packed show coming your way. Still in Los Angeles for the rest of the day into tomorrow. Tomorrow night, the Los Angeles Lakers host the Boston Celtics. Kyrie Irving is coming to town to go against his old teammate LeBron James. Together, they won a championship 3 years ago for the city of Cleveland and the Cleveland Cavaliers. Kyrie Irving is now a Boston Celtics. He will be in town at the most opportune of times, actually, considering all the stuff that has just been associated with the Lakers and LeBron James over the past few weeks. That's number one. Number two, the Clippers, 8th seed in the Western Conference playoffs, looking to move forward, make some noise, 8 games over 500, trying to move up in the seedings and the standings. They host the Oklahoma City Thunder, who just played in Portland last night and beat the Portland Trailblazers despite Damian Lillard, Dame time, dropping 51. Russell Westbrook had about 37. Paul George did his thing as well. They play tonight. That'll be interesting to see. Plus some other NBA stuff because LeBron's on a minutes restrictions limit, and we will definitely be discussing that. But there's a couple of things that we need to get into. And they don't necessarily involve Kyler Murray like it did over the last couple of days. This is more to the heart of a matter involving A, Antonio Brown, and B, weed in professional sports. Let me get Antonio Brown out of the way first. You heard the news. Bills GM said a trade for Antonio Brown did not make sense. And that's why trade talks ultimately fell apart. Originally reported by Ian Rappaport for NFL Network that a trade was imminent, that the Bills were definitely close to acquiring Antonio Brown. Ultimately, that's something that didn't happen. According to Bills GM Brandon Beane, he said, we inquired about Antonio Brown on Tuesday and kept talks open with the Pittsburgh Steelers. We had positive discussions, but ultimately it didn't make sense for either side. As great a player as Antonio Brown is, we have moved on and our focus is on free agency. Here's the bottom line. Antonio Brown should thank his lucky stars. He should thank his lucky stars. You don't really have a quarterback yet in Buffalo. You don't really have that yet. They're certainly not a good team. You want to position yourself to compete for championships. That's not going to get it done for you. That ain't the answer. Buffalo Bills weren't the answer for Antonio Brown. He's lucky the Steelers didn't send him there. He's very lucky. Personally speaking, in my perfect world, somebody like the New York Giants, who already have Odell Beckham Jr. Could you imagine if Antonio Brown was on the other side of the field, opposite Odell Beckham Jr., with a quarterback that wasn't named Eli Manning, and instead was Dwayne Haskins out of Ohio State? Could you imagine that? Now, obviously, that's fool's gold. That's not going to happen. I was just fantasizing. Another fantasy would have been, since I'm a Steelers fan, him remaining in Pittsburgh. That's not going to happen. Another fantasy, him going to Green Bay and having Aaron Rodgers throwing the ball. But with that fan base and a rookie executive at the GM slot, that's not going to happen. Or rookie head coach, I'm sorry. And Matt LaFleur. I mean, that's not going to happen. So now we got a situation where should Antonio Brown end up? Some people say New England. Bill Belichick don't want Antonio Brown. If you called out your quarterback, called out your coach, called out the organization, look, man, that's an entirely different kind of distraction. That's the kind of distraction most teams don't want. And I think ultimately you could make the argument that Oakland would be a nice landing spot for him because John Gruden is willing to wheel and deal. He's got multiple first-round picks at his disposal. You got to take care of Derek Carr to bring somebody, have somebody for him to throw the ball to. Because Jared Cook or Jordy Nelson or somebody, that ain't enough. And on top of it all, you're moving to Las Vegas. And a guy with Antonio Brown's personality, who's going to demand the ball, who's going to be a worthy number one option, who definitely wants his target, with Derek Carr looking for somebody to target the football to, seems like it could work. Seems like something that you don't summarily dismiss. So when I look at it from that perspective, I say, okay, Oakland might be a viable landing spot. Antonio Brown right now is considered a sinner. He's considered a sinner because of the manner in which he has elected to conduct himself and portray himself in the last few weeks, with everything from interviews with ESPN to appearances on The Shop with LeBron James and Anthony Davis and Maverick Carter and Jamie Foxx and 2 Chainz. So you got all of that going on with him bloviating and talking about the quarterback, having the mentality of an owner. The GM disrespecting players, the coach telling them to go home like he wasn't nothing. This is according to Antonio Brown. Nobody was safe. Nobody's been safe over the last few weeks. He's talked to Big Ben. He's talked about Big Ben Roethlisberger. He's talked about Mike Tomlin. He's talked about the GM Kevin Colbert. He's talked about ownership. He's talked about his money. Those are 5 different categories where he's essentially said, I'm possibly going to be a distraction for you. You know it's bad when the GM for the Pittsburgh Steelers, arguably a gold standard in the National Football League for decades, with 6 world championships, Super Bowl championships on their resume, these guys came out and said about 3 teams called. How come it wasn't 10? How come it wasn't 13? How come it wasn't 15? How come it wasn't 18? For a receiver who's caught at least 101 passes per season for over 1,285 yards per season over the last 6 years, who's universally recognized as one of the top 2 receivers in all of football. Why in God's name would only 3 teams be calling you? Because they consider Antonio Brown cancerous. I'm not saying that. I like Antonio Brown. I don't approve of everything that he's done in the way that he's done it. But I understand his frustration. But I think he's completely mishandled all of this. And I think he's devalued himself in the market. Now, one can make the argument that, you know what, there's 32 teams. And because there's 32 teams, all you got to find is one. That's all you got to find. I'm surprised the Dallas Cowboys didn't come calling, even with Amari Cooper there. I'm surprised. But the fact of the matter is, somebody eventually will call. But by him talking, he's devalued himself, particularly when you're letting everybody know, not only have I been a distraction, so you got to worry about that, but I also want guaranteed money. He's created a problem for himself. I'm trying to figure out who the hell are these people's PR folks. And oh, by the way, transitioning to basketball, since I am sitting here in LA, when we talk about PR, I can't believe I'm saying this, but somebody whose PR hasn't been the greatest is LeBron James. I haven't been out here all the time. Plus, I'm not a Los Angelian as much as I love this city. Lord have mercy, do I love it. The weather, the palm trees, the sunshine, Rodeo Drive, Melrose, L.A. Live, Venice Beach, I mean everything. L.A. is lovely. But I ain't from here. So when I look at a guy like a Bill Plaschke in the LA Times writing columns about LeBron James and being here for Hollywood as opposed to being a part of Laker Nation, I don't know whether that's true or not. I do know this. Plenty of Los Angeles have come up to me and said the same thing Bill Plaschke said. I do know this. Bill Plaschke is a legend in this town and a preeminent voice in LA. Brad Turner, my man for the LA Times, should be considered one as well because what a hell of a reporter he is. Hell of a reporter. But Bill Plaschke being a columnist, the license to editorialize and pontificate and give your opinions. He has been the preeminent voice in LA for decades. And if that's what he says, damn it, I'm taking it as gospel. So suddenly, if you're LeBron James, this question is being asked. How come there was no press conference when you first arrived in LA? In your charity event, how come you weren't there? This is what they're saying, not me. I don't know. When they ask those kind of questions, and they're wondering whether or not you want to be a part of LA, it's a problem. It's a problem. Your PR person, if I'm the PR person, if I'm Adam Medelson and I'm working with LeBron James gets to town. It's the first three things I do. I do a sit-down interview with the great Jim Hill. Ladies and gentlemen, if you in LA and you ain't done an interview with Jim Hill, you ain't in LA. Period. Let me just say what it is. I'm a reporter who does interviews. I'm a columnist who's done interviews. I'm a radio host and television host who's done interviews. And I've been interviewed by Jim Hill. If you're in LA, you sit down with Jim Hill. Period. That's what you do. You sit down with Bill Plaschke. That's what you do. That's what you do. You don't do anything else in this town. You do those things. You become a Laker, you got a press conference. You don't show up to LA and don't have a press conference. That's not what you do. You have a press conference, you have a sit-down interview with Jim Hill, you sit down and talk with Bill Plaschke. That's what you do. Now, if LeBron did that, and I don't know, I apologize. Never saw it. Never saw it. So Antonio Brown being on The Shop, listening and talking with LeBron, well, those are errors that were made. It's not a crime, ladies and gentlemen. They didn't rob anybody. It's not to be excoriated. I'm just pointing out some PR moves that could have been better. That's all I'm saying. Having said all of that, here's the other thing. Because it all ties in. Getting back to Antonio Brown's appearance on The Shop with LeBron James and Maverick Carter, with Jamie Foxx and 2 Chainz and those boys in attendance. First of all, Jamie Foxx was phenomenal, as always. Anthony Davis was pretty damn good, too. Okay? Let's be clear. 2 Chainz, don't judge a book by its cover. First of all, he's a cool brother. Album's off the chain. No pun intended. And on top of it all, this is a dude that played ball in college. And oh, by the way, while he was a student athlete, had a 4.0 GPA and graduated in 3 years. So I'll be talking about 2 Chainz. Understand this is a highly intelligent individual who's also highly accomplished. And by the way, real and authentic, and I give him a lot of love. I got a lot of love for 2 Chainz. And oh, let me say this for the record. I got a lot of love for The Shop. I think LeBron James and Maverick Carter doing a hell of a job with that show. HBO's lucky to have it. I like it. And I'd encourage everybody to watch it. But part of what makes the world go round is loving, appreciating, and respecting something and not necessarily agreeing with everything. Somebody like Jamie Foxx, that's my brother. I love Jamie Foxx. Do I agree with every damn thing he says? Hell no. Does he agree with everything I say? Hell no. A matter of fact, when he transforms into Cleveland A. Smith, which is absolutely hysterical, he's usually disagreeing with me then. So ain't nothing but love. But on a more serious level, Antonio Brown sitting there and speaking his piece. What was disappointing to me was that no one asked a question. My brother, okay, let's say for the sake of argument, you're absolutely positively right with what you're saying. How's that going to work for you? See, LeBron got his money established. LeBron set for generations. Maverick Carter, some of the brains behind the brilliance of LeBron James. He's pretty set. Jamie Foxx is an Academy Award winner. And I would make an argument and debate this with anybody. If you know a more talented all-around individual in Hollywood, show me who he is. I'll still tell you you're wrong. You might have actors, you might have singers, you might have comedians. There is no person, no one individual with the all-around versatile skills better than Jamie Foxx. You tell me differently, you're lying. There is no one in the entire Hollywood that is more talented all around than Jamie Foxx. He's that great. He's that great. All I'm saying about Antonio Brown is those individuals were established. Antonio Brown's greatness as a talent is established, but his money ain't. Was it really, really wise for him to be on that show talking what he was talking before he got a new contract? Y'all couldn't wait? Because don't tell me that ain't going to have a negative effect on him. Maybe Drew Rosenhaus is going to pull off something for him, but I find it hard to believe that it's not going to detrimentally affect him. And it's not going to scare NFL teams off and potentially compromise his dollars. See, we talk a lot, ladies and gentlemen, about, oh, man, you got to be real, you got to be authentic, and all that. Yeah, ladies and gentlemen, absolutely. Nobody advocates more than me being real. But what you're missing is that there are various categories that come with being real. You can be real smart. You can also be real dumb, real ignorant, real stupid, real unprofessional. You can be a whole bunch of things. Real. Real. Which brings me to David Irvin of the Dallas Cowboys. Did you see the video, ladies and gentlemen? Did you see the video? I don't know if you see the video. John, do we at least have sound from the video? Do we at least have that? Because, ladies and gentlemen, online, David Irvin, 6'7", 290-pound lineman for the Dallas Cowboys who played in just 2 games last year, has been suspended 3 different times. PED use, weed use. Well, he was on the verge of banishment for another failed test. And he goes on social media to announce that he's giving up football because, damn it, he wants to smoke his weed. Listen to what he had to say.
Basically, guys, I quit. I want to talk about a suspension and all this other nonsense. I'm out of there. I'm not doing it no more. You start talking about addiction, that's a sensitive subject. It's funny, you know, some people are like, oh, you're addicted to weed, you're addicted to this and that. I mean, if I'm going to be addicted to something, I'd rather be marijuana, which is medical. It's a medicine. I do not consider it a drug, rather than the Xanax bars or the Hydros or the Seroquel and all that crazy that they feed you, you know. So like I said, it ain't about smoking weed.
ladies and gentlemen, I'm sad. And if y'all are expecting me to go off on David Irving, that's not what I'm going to do. It's not a laughing matter. It's not a funny matter. I know I make statements like stay off the weed, but that's just a generic statement or whatever, and you're having fun with it and just telling people to stay off the weed because it's going to compromise your bottom line. This is far more serious than that. Ladies and gentlemen, understand that at 6'7", 290 pounds, a defensive end out of Iowa State who's been in the league since 2015 has played in a grand total of 37 games. Because he's been suspended 3 times for drug use. I don't find that to be a laughing matter. Because at 25 years of age, what you've essentially said is that I'm willing to forfeit potentially millions of dollars because I want to smoke some weed. Now, people are going to make the argument the NFL and their testing for marijuana is ridiculous. True. The NFL have far worse things they should be testing for that they put in the bodies of these professional athletes. And it ain't right, Stephen A. That's true. All of that's true. They need to eradicate the testing. At the very least in the off season, they need to allow marijuana use for medicinal purposes. Ladies and gentlemen, you're absolutely right. I'm not here to dispute that. But here's the reality. The rules are what they are until they change. And if you elected to play in the National Football League, you were aware of the rules and either didn't have the discipline to refrain from usage, or you didn't give a damn and was willing to use millions, which gives indications that you must be an addict, because I ain't never seen a joint in my life worth millions of dollars. No matter what way you slice it, tell me what on earth is positive about a 25-year-old on social media for the world to see, unapologetic about losing out on millions of dollars just because they want the license to smoke some weed. Tell me about that. Think about it. It's pretty damn sad. I got more to say on that subject, and then some. You're listening live to the Stephen A. Smith Show, ESPN Radio, ESPN News. That was Straight Talk Wireless, nationwide coverage on America's largest and most dependable 4G LTE networks. I'll get to your phone calls and more in a minute. Don't touch that dial because I got a hell of a lot more to say. It's Stephen A. ESPN Radio, ESPN News. By the way, if you haven't tried the delicious high-quality meat from ButcherBox, you're going to be blown away. ButcherBox brings you the meat the way it's meant to be so you can get all of the benefits you're supposed to get. Unbelievable flavor and unparalleled nutrition. They work closely with the best farms and companies committed to raising animals humanely. From grass-fed beef to free-range organic chicken to wild-caught sockeye salmon from Bristol Bay, Alaska, ButcherBox has over 20 different cuts of meat to choose from with customizable boxes and a variety of other options. Not anymore. I'm not holding back. I'm sick and tired of that nonsense. I'm about to undress a few folks. Not by name, but I'm about to undress a few folks with that mode of thinking. Here I come. Buckle up. And I want to warn y'all, these words are not the words of ESPN. They're mine. I'll talk to y'all in a minute.
Learn what affects your credit scores and what you can do to improve them with Credit Karma. Maybe you need to dispute